Hey, what's up you guys? Hey, it's Kevin again. Kevin Schmidt, physical therapist, bike fitter, owner and founder of Pedal PT out here in Portland, Oregon for more of your great questions that we can help kind of solve the challenges on the bike. Had somebody reach out to me today asking about stenosis of the back, of the lower lumbar spine, and curious about BikeFit, things what we would consider with bike fitting. So I'm not going to get into anatomically what stenosis is, getting out models. You can kind of do some research on that, but a stenosis essentially is a thickening kind of our spinal canal, kind of from the back to the forward. So ultimately what that means is that when that happens, oftentimes folks can't walk for a very long time. Sometimes prolonged standing is terrible for them, and sometimes they can get kind of neural compression from that. Stenosis, or folks that have stenosis, oftentimes do not like backwards bending. Backwards bending would trigger that. Backwards bending would actually compress that aspect sometimes of the spinal canal, or that area get tingling and numbness into the legs. The things that we think about with bike fitting a lot of times is cycling is oftentimes a comfortable position, or being flexed over the bike is a comfortable position for a person with stenosis, and oftentimes they will find a lot of relief in that position by flexing forward. When we flex forward, we're basically kind of opening up that lower part of our back and opening up that area. The main things we want to be careful with regards to bike fit is that we want to be careful of essentially rocking on the saddle. So not necessarily just the forward bending itself, but if we were looking at a rider from the side and we're getting rocking in that saddle, we're creating kind of this side bending motion in the lower back. That oftentimes can trigger stenosis. This then involves kind of concepts of being saddle, making sure you're not too high. If you're too high, you're going to reach at the bottom of that pedal stroke. If you're too low, sometimes as your knee gets over the top of that pedal stroke, or kind of as your hip bends over the top, that can also cause you to side bend. So we want to be careful that they're not getting a lot of rocking side to side. So that's basically in relation to oftentimes saddle position, height, too high, too low. It also sometimes looks at hip mobility in regards to bar positioning. And what I mean by that is that when we've got a saddle that's this height, the bars are quite a bit lower, that person has to round forward more. Well, that's fine, provided that our cranks allow us to get the leg over the top without doing a lot of rocking or rotating through our pelvis. If the hips are tight when we come over the top of that pedal stroke, that'll oftentimes cause those riders to rotate off that side of the hip, again, causing a twisting or kind of shifting motion in the back, which can also irritate stenosis folks as well, or folks with stenosis that are having some aggravation in the back on the bike. So those are going to be the main things you'll want to look at. Is a lot of times it has to do with, sometimes if those riders are having issues, we need to start thinking about getting the stem a little bit higher in relation to the saddle. Sometimes those folks are good candidates for getting shorter cranks as well, because again, at the top of that pedal stroke, they're going to be able to be a little bit lower on the front end without having to kind of hike their hip to get the back over the top. Ultimately, when we're pedaling, we just want the spine to stay stable and not do a lot of wiggling or shifting, whether that be rotation or side to side as well. So take a look at that. So stenosis, oftentimes forward bending feels great. Now, this would be a little bit different than someone that might have a disc injury, things of that nature, which usually don't tolerate forward bending as well. So I guess we'll have to save another video for that time as well. But for those of you with stenosis, it is okay to round forward. That usually is going to be a position of comfort. We just want to make sure that we're not either too high, too low. The pelvis stays stable when we're on that saddle, and then making sure that our saddle to bar drop is not too much. That is causing almost rocking or shifting in the saddle as well too. So if you guys do have questions about that, please list them in the comments below. I'm sure, like I said, with being a physical therapist, we see this in clinic all the time. If you guys do have questions about that, please reach out. Also, if you haven't so far and you've made it this far, please consider liking and subscribing to the channel. I think we just kind of hit over 400 subscribers, so that's great. But otherwise, keep those questions coming. It's your questions that keep this channel rolling. Till next time, again, Kevin Schmidt, physical therapist, bike fitter, out here at Pedal PT, Portland, Oregon.